Welcome to Warhammer 40k 8th edition Battle Report 48. 1500 points, Death Guard versus World Eaters. This is the chapter-approved Eternal War mission, Dominate and Destroy, and we will be rolling for a random map deployment today. Let's begin by taking a quick look around the board at where each of the objective markers have been placed. Beginning in this 2 foot by 2 foot section, the objective marker has been placed right here next to this ruin. In this middle 2 foot by 2 foot section, the objective marker has been placed up here next to this crater. In this 2 foot by 2 foot section, the objective marker has been placed down here next to this crater. Over on the other side of the board, in this 2 foot by 2 foot section, the objective marker has been placed up here next to this ruin. In this middle 2 foot by 2 foot section, the objective marker has been placed down here next to this crater. And finally, in this 2 foot by 2 foot section, the objective marker has been placed near the middle, towards this crater. And now we will roll for the random map deployment. Rolling a 6, which is Vanguard Strike. And so on a roll of a 1, 2, or a 3, the deployment zones will be the top left corner and the bottom right corner. And on a 4, 5, or 6, the deployment zones will be in the bottom left corner and the top right corner. And here's the roll. Rolling a 4. So the deployment zones will be in the bottom left corner and the top right corner. And so now on a roll of a 1, 2, or a 3, the Death Guard will begin to deploy in the bottom left, and the World Eaters will deploy in the top right. And on a 4, 5, or 6, it'll be the opposite, so Death Guard deploying in the top right, and World Eaters deploying in the bottom left. And here's the roll. Rolling a 6. So the Death Guard will deploy in the top right corner, and the World Eaters will deploy in the bottom left. Now on a roll of a 1, 2, or 3, the Death Guard will begin to deploy first, and on a 4, 5, or 6, the World Eaters will begin to deploy first. Rolling a 3, and so the Death Guard will begin to deploy first. We will be back after the deployment. The deployment is now finished. The Death Guard began to deploy first, but the World Eaters finished deploying first, which means that the World Eaters will get +1 to the roll-off to determine who goes first. Let's take a quick look around the board at where each army placed all of their units. Beginning with the World Eaters deployment, going from right to left from the Death Guard perspective, we have the first squad of 10 Chaos Cultists, the second squad of 10 Chaos Cultists sitting on this objective marker, the Khorne Lord of Skulls, the third squad of 10 Chaos Cultists, the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings, and finally the Chaos Land Raider with the squad of 3 Mutilators and Karn the Betrayer embarked inside. Moving over to the Death Guard deployment, also going from right to left from the World Eaters perspective, we have the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings, the Chaos Land Raider with the squad of 7 Plague Marines, Plague Surgeon, and Lord of Contagion embarked inside, the first squad of 10 Poxwalkers sitting on this objective marker, Plague Burst Crawler number 1, the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle, Plague Burst Crawler number 2, and finally the second squad of 10 Poxwalkers. For this battle report, the Death Guard will have access to 9 command points, and the World Eaters will have access to 8 command points. For a full overview of both armies with all of the war gear that they are bringing, please check out the pregame show, which was released at the beginning of the group. The link for the pregame show will be in the description down below. And now we will roll off to determine who will go first. The World Eaters, who will have a +1 modifier to this roll, will be the golden blue dice, and the Death Guard, who will not have a modifier, will be the white dice. And here's the roll. So the World Eaters roll a 2, which becomes a 3, and the Death Guard also roll a 3, which means we have a tie, and we'll roll a second time. And here's roll number 2, and so the World Eaters roll a 1, which becomes a 2, and the Death Guard roll another 3, which means that the Death Guard will win the roll-off. And so now the World Eaters will attempt to seize the initiative on a 6, and they fail by rolling a 1. So let's go into Death Guard, turn 1. Going into Death Guard turn 1, a reminder that the Death Guard have 9 command points available, and the World Eaters have 8 command points available. Going into the movement phase, the Death Guard Chaos Land Raider will move up to 10 inches. The Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings will move up to 12 inches. The squad of 10 Poxwalkers sitting on this objective marker will remain still. Plague Burst Crawler number 1, which is sitting on an objective marker, will remain still. The Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will remain still. Plague Burst Crawler number 2 will also remain still. Finally, this squad of 10 Poxwalkers will move up to 4 inches, and they will also declare an advance. And here's the advance roll, rolling 2 inches. So the squad of 10 Poxwalkers will move up to 6 inches. Going into the Psychic phase, the Demon Prince and Nurgle with wings is not within 18 inches of any enemy units to cast Smite, and no Death Guard units will be able to charge this turn, so there's no reason to cast Blades of Putrefaction, so he will not cast any psychic powers. The Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will attempt to manifest Miasma of Pestilence onto this squad of 10 Poxwalkers, and Miasma of Pestilence is a warp chart value of 6, and it passes with a 9. Going into the shooting phase, we will begin with this Plague Burst Crawler, which will fire its Heavy Slugger into this squad of 10 Chaos Cultists, and it will fire its Plague Burst Mortar and its 2 Entropy Cannons into the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider. Beginning with the Heavy Slugger into the Chaos Cultists, 4 shots total, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 hit. Strength 5 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on a 3, and it wounds. And it is -1 AP, so no armor save on the Cultists. So 1 Chaos Cultist will go down, leaving 9 left alive in the squad. Now for the 2 Entropy Cannons into the Chaos Land Raider, 1 shot apiece for 2 shots total, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, getting 1 wound. -4 AP, so 1 6-up armor save, which fails. And it will do D6 damage, and it will do 4 damage. So the Chaos Land Raider will fall from 16 starting wounds down to 12. And now for D6 shots from the Plague Burst Mortar, getting 1 shot. And the Death Guard will use 1 command point going from 9 down to 8 for a command reroll to reroll the number of shots. And here's the reroll, now getting 6 shots. Hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 3 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, rerolling fails thanks to the Warlord trait from the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle and the fact that it's a plague weapon, getting 2 wounds and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, getting all 3 wounds. -2 AP, so 3 4-up armor saves, passing 2 and failing 1. And the World Eaters will use 1 command point going from 8 down to 7 for a command reroll to reroll the 1. And here's the reroll, and it still fails. So D3 damage will go through, and it will do 3 damage. So the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider will fall from 12 wounds down to 9. The second Plague Burst Crawler will fire its Heavy Slugger into this squad of 9 Chaos Cultists, and it will fire its 2 Entropy Cannons and its Plague Burst Mortar into the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider. Beginning with the Heavy Slugger into the Chaos Cultists, 4 shots hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds, and they are -1 AP, so no armor save on the Cultists. So 2 more Cultists will go down, leaving 7 left alive in the squad. Now for the 2 Entropy Cannons into the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting a miss and a reroll. And here's the reroll, now getting a hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on a 4, and it fails to wound. D6 shots from the Plague Burst Mortar, getting 3 shots. Hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, rerolling fails, getting 2 wounds. -2 AP, so 2 4-up armor saves, and failing both. And they are D3 damage piece, doing just 1 damage piece for 2 damage total. So the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider will fall from 9 wounds down to 7. Finally, the Death Guard Chaos Land Raider will fire its 2 Twin Last Cannons, the bolt gun portion of its Combi Flamer, its Twin Heavy Bolter, and its Havoc Launcher into the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider in order to try to finish it off. Beginning with the 2 Twin Last Cannons, 4 shots hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits and 2 rerolls. And here's the rerolls, still failing to get any more hits. So only 2 hits total. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s, getting 1 wound, -3 AP, so 1 5-up armor save, which fails. And it will do D6 damage, and it will only do 1 damage. So the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider will fall from 7 wounds down to 6. Now for the Twin Heavy Bolter, 6 shots hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 5 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, getting all 6 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound. -1 AP, so 1 3-up armor save, which passes. D6 shots from the Havoc Launcher, getting 1 shot, hitting on a 3, rerolling 1s, failing to hit. And finally, 1 shot from the Bolt Gun from the Combi Flamer, hitting on a 3, rerolling 1s, getting a reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit. Going into the assault phase, there are no charges to declare, which means going into the fight phase, there are no fights to resolve. And going into the morale phase, this squad of Chaos Cultists lost 3 models this turn, and the Cultist Champion has a leadership of 6. And here's their morale check roll, and they roll a 2, so they pass and nothing happens. At the end of the player turn, the Death Guard are currently controlling 2 objective markers, and so they will gain 2 victory points. And so at the end of Death Guard turn 1, the score currently sits at 2 victory points for the Death Guard and 0 victory points for the World Eaters. Going into World Eaters turn 1, a reminder that the World Eaters have 7 command points available, and the Death Guard have 8 command points available.
Going into the movement phase, this squad of 10 Chaos Cultists will remain still. This squad of 7 Chaos Cultists will move up to 6 inches, and they will also declare an advance. And here's the advance roll, rolling 1 additional inch, so the World Eaters will use 1 command point going from 7 down to 6, for a command reroll to reroll the advance roll. And here's the reroll, rolling 6 additional inches, so the Chaos Cultists will move up to 12 inches. The Khorne Lord of Skulls will move up to 10 inches. This squad of 10 Chaos Cultists will move up to 6 inches, and they will also declare an advance. And here's the advance roll, rolling 5 additional inches, so this squad of Cultists will move up to 11 inches. Karn the Betrayer and the squad of 3 Mutilators will disembark from the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider. The squad of 3 Mutilators will move up to 4 inches, and they will also declare an advance. And here's the advance roll, rolling 2 additional inches, so the Mutilators will move up to 6 inches. Now Karn the Betrayer will move up to 6 inches. The Warlord's Chaos Land Raider, now that it's down to 6 wounds, will move up to 5 inches. Finally, the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings will move up to 12 inches and will also declare an advance. And here's the advance roll, rolling 4 additional inches, so the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings will move up to 16 inches. Going into the shooting phase, this squad of 7 Chaos Cultists advanced, so they will not be able to fire. The World Eater's Chaos Land Raider will fire its 2 twin last cannons, twin heavy bolter, and the bolt gun portion of its combi melta into the Death Guard Chaos Land Raider. Beginning with the 2 twin last cannons, 4 shots total, hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s, thanks to now being down to 6 wounds. Getting all 4 hits. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s. Getting 3 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 3 5-up armor saves. Passing 1 and failing 2. And the Death Guard are going to use 1 command point, going from 8 down to 7, for a command reroll to reroll the 3. And here's the reroll. And they will pass the 5-up armor save, so only failing 1. And it will do d6 damage, and it will do 4 damage. So the Death Guard Chaos Land Raider will fall from 16 starting wounds down to 12. Twin Heavy Bolter has 6 shots total, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 3 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll. Getting a 4th hit. Strength 5 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 5s. Getting 1 wound. Minus 1 AP, so 1 3-up armor save, which passes. Now for the bolt gun from the combi melta. 1 shot, since he's not within 12-inch range. Hitting on a 4, rerolling 1s, getting 1 hit. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on a 6, and it fails to wound. The Khorne Lord of Skulls will fire everything that it has into the Death Guard Chaos Land Raider. And so the World Eaters will use the stratagem Demon Forge for 1 command point, bringing them from 6 down to 5. Use this stratagem in your shooting or fight phase. When a Chaos Space Marine Demon vehicle is chosen to attack, you can reroll failed hit and wound rolls for that model until the end of the phase. Beginning with the Skull Hurler. D6 shots, getting 1 shot, and the World Eaters are going to use 1 command point, going from 5 down to 4, for a command reroll to reroll the number of shots. And here's the reroll, now getting 5 shots. Hitting on 3s, rerolling, getting 4 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit, so 4 hits total. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s, rerolling, and a good thing too, failing to wound, so 4 rerolls. And here's the rerolls, now getting all 4 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 4 5-up armor saves, and passing 3 of them, only failing 1. And it will do D3 damage, and it will do 1 damage. So the Death Guard Chaos Land Raider will fall from 12 wounds down to 11. And now for the Ichor Cannon, D6 shots, getting 5 shots. Hitting on 3s, rerolling, getting 4 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll. getting a 5th hit. Strength 7 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 5s, re-rolling, getting 2 wounds and 3 re-rolls. And here's the re-rolls, getting 4 wounds total, minus 4 AP, so 4 6-up armor saves, failing all 4. And they are D3 damage apiece, and that is 8 damage. So the Death Guard Chaos Land Raider will fall from 11 wounds down to 3 left. Karn the Betrayer will fire his special plasma pistol into the Death Guard Chaos Land Raider. One shot, hitting on a 2, getting a hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on a 4, and it fails to wound. Finally, the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with Wings will fire his Warp Bolter into the Death Guard Chaos Land Raider. 2 shots, hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s thanks to advancing and firing an assault weapon, getting 1 hit and 1 re-roll. And here's the re-roll, still failing to hit. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on a 6, re-rolling 1s, failing to wound. Going into the assault phase, there are no charges to declare, which means going into the fight phase, there are no fights to resolve, and going into the morale phase, there are no morale checks to take.
At the end of the player turn, the World Eaters are currently controlling 4 objective markers, and so they will gain 4 victory points. And so at the end of World Eaters turn 1, the score currently sits at 4 victory points for the World Eaters and 2 victory points for the Death Guard. Going into Death Guard turn 2, a reminder that the Death Guard have 7 command points available, and the World Eaters have 4 command points available.
Going into the movement phase, this squad of 10 Poxwalkers will move up to 4 inches. This squad of 10 Poxwalkers will remain still. This Plague Burst Crawler is going to move back up to 9 inches. The second Plague Burst Crawler will also move back up to 9 inches. The Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will move up to 8 inches. The squad of 7 Plague Marines, the Plague Surgeon, and the Lord of Contagion will all disembark from the Death Guard Chaos Land Raider. The Lord of Contagion will move up to 4 inches. The Plague Surgeon will move up to 5 inches. The squad of 7 Plague Marines will move up to 5 inches. The Demon Prince of Nurgle with Wings will move up to 12 inches. The Death Guard Chaos Land Raider, now that it's down to 3 wounds, will move up to 3 inches. Going into the Psychic phase, we will begin with the Demon Prince of Nurgle with Wings attempting to manifest Blades of Putrefaction onto the Lord of Contagion. And Blades of Putrefaction is a warp charge value of 5, and it will pass with a 7. But the World Eaters are going to use the stratagem Scorn of Sorcery for 1 command point, bring them from 4 down to 3. Use this stratagem when an enemy Psyker manifests a psychic power within 24 inches of a World Eater's unit. Roll a d6. On a 4-up, the effects of that psychic power are negated. And so here's the roll. Rolling a 5, so the effects of Blades of Putrefaction are negated. Finally, the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will attempt to manifest Miasma of Pestilence onto this Plague Burst Crawler. And Miasma of Pestilence has a warp charge value of 6, and it will go off with an 8. Going into the shooting phase, the Death Guard will begin with the Death Guard Chaos Land Raider, which will fire its 2 twin las cannons into the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider, and then it will fire its twin heavy bolter, Havoc Launcher, and both profiles from its Combi Flamer into the squad of 3 Mutilators. And the Death Guard Chaos Land Raider is down to a 5-up ballistic skill now that it's down to 3 wounds. So, beginning with the 2 twin las cannons, 4 shots total, hitting on 5s, re-rolling 1s, getting 1 hit, 2 misses, and 1 re-roll. And here's the re-roll, getting a second hit. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 2 5-up armor saves, and passing both. Now for the various weapons and the Mutilators, beginning with the Twin Heavy Bolter. 6 shots, hitting on 5s, re-rolling 1s, getting 2 hits and 1 re-roll. And here's the re-roll, still failing to hit, so 2 hits total. Strength 5 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 1 AP, so 2 3-up armor saves, and passing both. D6 shots from the Havoc Launcher, getting 4 shots. Hitting on 5s, re-rolling 1s. Failing to hit, getting 3 re-rolls. And here's the re-rolls. getting 1 hit. Strength 5 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 3, and it fails to wound. 2 shots from the bolt gun profile of the Combi Flamer, hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, failing to hit. And finally, the Flamer profile from the Combi Flamer, D6 shots, getting 4 shots. This weapon automatically hits, so 4 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 4s, getting 1 wound. No AP, so 1 2-up armor save, which passes. This Plague Burst Crawler, which did move, will fire its Heavy Slugger into this squad of 7 Chaos Cultists, and it will fire its Plague Burst Mortar and its 2 Entropy Cannons into the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider. And the Death Guard will use the stratagem Blasphemous Machines for 1 command point, bring them from 7 down to 6. Use this stratagem just before a Death Guard vehicle attacks in the shooting phase until the end of the phase. That vehicle can ignore the penalties for moving and firing heavy weapons or for advancing and firing assault weapons. So beginning with the Heavy Slugger into the Cultists, 4 shots, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 hit and 2 rerolls, and here's the rerolls, getting 1 additional hit for 2 hits total. Strength 5 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 3s, getting 1 wound. Minus 1 AP, but this will go into a Cultist in the Crater, who will have +1, so 1 6-up armor save, which fails. So 1 Chaos Cultist will go down, leaving 6 left alive in the squad. Now for the 2 Entropy Cannons, into the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, failing to hit. Finally, the Plague Burst Mortar, D6 shots, getting 5 shots. Hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 3 hits and 2 rerolls. And here's the rerolls, getting all 5 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, but rerolling all fails, thanks to being a plague weapon, and the Warlord trait from the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle, Arch Contaminator, and a very good thing, getting all 5 rerolls. And here's the rerolls. So now getting 4 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 4 4-up armor saves. Passing 3 and failing 1. And the World Eaters will use 1 command point, going from 3 down to 2, for a command reroll to reroll the 1. And here's the reroll, and it still fails. So D3 damage will go through, and it will do 3 damage. So the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider will fall from 6 wounds down to 3. The second Plague Burst Crawler, which also moved, will fire its Heavy Slugger into this squad of 6 Chaos Cultists, and it will fire its 2 Entropy Cannons and its Plague Burst Mortar into the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider. Beginning with the Heavy Slugger, 4 shots hitting on 5s, rerolling 1s, hitting 1 hit. Strength 5 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on a 3, and it fails to wound. 2 Entropy Cannons into the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider, 1 shot apiece for 2 shots total, hitting on 5s, rerolling 1s, and both fail to hit. Finally, D6 shots from the Plague Burst Mortar, getting 5 shots. Hitting on 5s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, rerolling all fails, getting a wound and a reroll. And here's the reroll, getting 2 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 2 4-up armor saves, passing 1 and failing 1. And it will do D3 damage, and it will do 3 damage. And does the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider explode on a 6? And it will not. So the World Eater's Chaos Land Raider will lose its last 3 wounds and be removed. And that is First Blood. The Plague Surgeon will throw a crack grenade into the Mutilators. 1 shot hitting on a 3, rerolling 1s, getting 1 hit. Strength 6 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 3, and it fails to wound. Finally, the squad of 7 Plague Marines will fire 3 plasma guns, 2 bolt guns, and 1 crack grenade into the squad of Mutilators. Beginning with the crack grenade, 1 shot hitting on a 3, rerolling 1s, getting a reroll. And here's the reroll, getting 1 hit. Strength 6 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 3, and it wounds. Minus 1 AP, so 1 3-up armor save, which passes. 2 bolt guns in rapid fire range for 4 shots total, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 3 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 4s, failing to wound. And now the 3 plasma guns will fire supercharged shots in rapid fire range, so 2 shots apiece, and they will have to be fired separately, beginning with the Plague Champion. 2 shots hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting a hit and a reroll. And here's the reroll, getting 2 hits. Regular plasma gun number 1, 2 shots hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting a hit and a reroll. And here's the reroll, failing to hit, but it's no longer a 1. And finally, the second regular plasma gun, 2 shots hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits, for 5 hits total. Strength 8 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 2s, getting 3 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 3 5-up invulnerable saves. failing all 3. And they are 2 damage apiece, but the damage does not carry over from model to model. So the first 2 strikes will finish off the 3 starting wounds on 1 mutilator, leaving 2 left alive in the squad, and then the third and final strike will do 2 damage to a second mutilator, which will drop him from 3 starting wounds down to 1 left. Going into the assault phase, there are 4 charges to declare, beginning with the squad of 7 Plague Marines, which will declare a charge solely into the squad of 2 Mutilators. The Plague Surgeon will declare a multi-charge into the squad of 2 Mutilators and Karn the Betrayer. The Lord of Contagion will declare a charge solely into Karn the Betrayer, and the Demon Prince of Nurgle with Wings will declare a multi-charge into Karn the Betrayer, and the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with Wings. The Plague Surgeon's primary target will be the Mutilators. The Demon Prince of Nurgle with Wings' primary target will be Karn the Betrayer. And so we will begin with the Demon Prince of Nurgle with Wings. Beginning with the Overwatch, from the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with Wings and his Warp Bolter, 2 shots, hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, failing to hit. Karn the Betrayer will fire his special plasma pistol, 1 shot, hitting on a 6, rerolling fails, thanks to himself, getting 1 reroll, and here's the reroll, still failing to hit. And here's the charge range, getting 8 inches. And so even after subtracting 2 inches for charging through a crater, a 6-inch charge will be more than enough to make it in. And so now we will resolve the charge from the Lord of Contagion, and there is no more Overwatch, so here's the charge range, rolling 6 inches. And so even after subtracting 2 inches from charging through a crater, a 4-inch charge is still more than enough to make it in. Now we will resolve the Plague Surgeon's charge. And here's the charge range, getting 4 inches. And the Plague Surgeon is well within 3 inches of both targets, so even after subtracting 2 inches from the charge range thanks to charging through a crater, a 2-inch charge is still more than enough to make it into combat. And finally, the charge from the squad of Plague Marines. And here's the charge range, getting 8 inches. And 8 inches is more than enough to make it in. And we do actually have a 5th charge to declare, which will be from this squad of 10 Poxwalkers into the squad of 6 Chaos Cultists. So beginning with Overwatch, from the Cultists, 6 auto pistols, with 1 shot apiece for 6 shots total, hitting on 6s, failing to hit. And here's the charge range, rolling 11 inches. And so even after subtracting 2 inches for charging through a crater, the Poxwalkers will make it in with a 9-inch charge. And as they were being moved, all of the ones over here on the side of the crater fell over because of wobbly model syndrome, so they will lay right there. Going into the fight phase, the Death Guard will begin with the Lord of Contagion placing its attacks onto Karn the Betrayer. And the Death Guard will use the stratagem Veterans of the Long War for 1 command point to bring them from 6 down to 5. You can use this stratagem when a Death Guard infantry unit is selected to attack in a shooting or fight phase. You can add 1 to wound rolls made for the unit until the end of the phase. 4 attacks base with its Man Reaper, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, getting 3 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, getting all 4 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, but adding 1 thanks to the stratagem, so actually wounding on 2s, and re-rolling 1s thanks to being a plague weapon. So getting 2 wounds and 2 re-rolls. And here's the re-rolls. Now getting 3 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 3 4-up invulnerable saves. And passing all 3. And the World Eaters will use the stratagem Counteroffensive for 2 command points, bringing them from 2 down to 0. This stratagem is used right after an enemy unit that charges fought. Select one of your own eligible units and fight with the next. And this will be used on the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with Wings, who will place all of his attacks onto the Demon Prince of Nurgle with Wings. 8 attacks with his 2 sets of Malefic Talons, hitting on 2s, reroll 1s, getting 6 hits and 2 rerolls. And here's the rerolls, getting all 8 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s thanks to his Warlord trait, getting 6 wounds and 2 rerolls. And here's the 2 rerolls, getting 1 additional wound for 7 wounds total. Minus 2 AP, so 7 4-up armor saves thanks to the Suppurating Plate, passing 1 and failing 6. Oh wow. So the Death Guard are going to use 1 command point, going from 5 down to 4, for a command reroll to reroll 1 of the 3s. And here's the reroll, and it will pass, so only failing 5. But they are 2 damage apiece, so 10 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, passing 4 of them, failing 6. So the Demon Prince of Nurgle with Wings will fall from 8 starting wounds down to 2. But thanks to the Suppurating Plate, the 2 strikes that were ignored thanks to the armor save will reflect back on 4-ups, One will and the other is a cocked dice. So here's the reroll on the cocked dice, which will not, which means that the Warlord Demon Princecorn with Wings will fall from 8 starting wounds down to 7. So now continuing with Death Guard charging units, we will have the squad of 7 Plague Marines place all of their attacks onto the squad of 2 Mutilators, and they are all in range to fight. The 2 Marines with plasma guns and the 2 Marines with bolt guns will all attack with 1 attack apiece with their plague knives, for 4 attacks total, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s thanks to the Demon Prince, hitting 3 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit, so 3 hits total. Strength 4 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 4s, rerolling 1s thanks to the Plague Knives, failing to wound but getting 2 rerolls. And here's the rerolls, still failing to wound. Now for the 2 Plague Marines armed with Flails of Corruption, 1 attack apiece for 2 attacks total, but they get to make D3 hit rolls per attack. And of course, both will roll 1s on the D3s for 2 attacks total, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s thanks to being a plague weapon, and getting 2 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 2 4-up armor saves, passing 1 and failing 1. And it is 2 damage apiece, and the damage does carry over from model to model for this particular weapon, so the wounded Mutilator will lose its last wound and be killed off, and the last Mutilator will fall from 3 starting wounds down to 2. Finally, the Plague Champion will attack with his Power Fist. 2 attacks hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting a hit and a reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit, for 1 hit total. Strength 8 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 2, and it wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 1 5-up invulnerable save, which fails. And it will do D3 damage, and it will do 2 damage. So the final Mutilator will lose its last 2 wounds and be killed off. And that squad is wiped out. And so now the Plague Marines will consolidate up to 3 inches. And they are now locked in combat with Karn the Betrayer. Next, we will have the squad of 10 Poxwalkers place all of their attacks onto this squad of cultists. 2 attacks apiece from each Poxwalker for 20 attacks total, hitting on 5s, getting 8 hits. Strength 3 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 4s, getting 3 wounds. No AP, so 3 6-up armor saves, passing 2 and failing 1. So 1 cultist will go down, leaving 5 left alive in the squad. And the Death Guard don't have enough spare points to pay the reinforcement point cost for an extra Poxwalker, so the Poxwalkers will not gain an additional model. The Plague Surgeon will now pile in up to 3 inches. And of course, everything fell over, so I tried to put things back where they were, but this is where everyone will be for now. 3 attacks with the Bale Sword, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 3 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 wound and a reroll. And here's the reroll, getting 2 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 2 4-up invulnerable saves, passing 1 and failing 1. And it is 1 damage, so Karn the Betrayer will fall from 5 starting wounds down to 4. The last charging unit will be the Demon Prince of Nurgle with Wings, which will place all of his attacks onto Karn the Betrayer. 7 attacks with his 2 sets of Malefic Talons, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, getting 5 hits and 2 rerolls. And here's the rerolls, getting 7 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 6 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 6 4-up invulnerable saves, passing 5 and only failing 1. So Karn the Betrayer will fall from 4 wounds down to 2. And so now that all of the charging units have gone, now non-charging units will go. Karn the Betrayer, and he gets to fight twice. So he will begin with his first set of attacks, all against the Demon Prince of Nurgle with Wings. And Karn the Betrayer is just barely over an inch away from the Warlord Demon Princecorn with Wings, so he won't have to worry about attacking a friendly unit. So the first set of 6 attacks with Gorechild against the Demon Prince of Nurgle with Wings, hitting on 2s, getting 5 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 4s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 4 AP, so 2 5-up invulnerable saves, passing 1 and failing 1. And it will do D3 damage, and it will do 1 damage, 1 5-up disgustingly resilient roll, which passes. And thanks to this uprating plate, does it reflect back on a 4-up. and it will not. And the World Eaters would really like for that Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings to be dead, so Karn the Betrayer will attack a second time, fully against the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings. 6 attacks with Gorechild, hitting on 2s, getting all 6 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 4s, and that's a really bad wound roll. Getting 1 wound. 1 5-up invulnerable save, which passes. And will it reflect back on a 4-up? And it will. So Karn the Betrayer will suffer 1 mortal wound and fall from 2 wounds down to 1 left. And I had almost forgotten that the Chaos Cultists will also have a chance to fight back against the Poxwalkers. 11 attacks total, thanks to their brutal assault weapons, hitting on 4s, getting 4 hits. Strength 3 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 4s, getting 3 wounds, no armor save on the Poxwalkers, so 3 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, passing 1 and failing 2. So 2 Poxwalkers will go down, leaving 8 left alive in the squad. Going into the morale phase, the squad of Poxwalkers lost 2 models this turn, however they are mindless, so they do not have to take morale checks. Finally, the squad of Cultists lost 2 models this turn, and the champion has a leadership of 6. And here's their morale check roll, and they roll a 5, so they will fail. So 1 more cultist will go down, leaving 4 left alive in the squad. And because of all this, the Poxwalkers will have control of this objective marker, because both are troop choices, and the Poxwalkers have more models within 3 inches of the center of the objective marker, so they will get priority.
At the end of the player turn, the Death Guard are now controlling 4 objective markers, which means they will gain 4 victory points. And so at the end of Death Guard turn 2, the score currently sits at 7 victory points for the Death Guard thanks to First Blood, and 4 victory points for the World Eaters. Going into World Eaters turn 2, a reminder that the World Eaters have 0 command points available, and the Death Guard have 4 command points available.
Going into the movement phase, this squad of 10 Chaos Cultists sitting on this objective marker will remain still. This squad of 4 Chaos Cultists will fall back out of combat. The Khorne Lord of Skulls will move up to 10 inches. This squad of 10 Chaos Cultists will remain still. Karn the Betrayer will remain locked in combat. The Warlord Chaos Demon Prince of Khorne with wings will remain locked in combat as well. Going into the shooting phase, this squad of cultists fell back this turn, so they will not be able to fire. The Khorne Lord of Skulls will fire its Ichor Cannon into this squad of Poxwalkers, and it will fire its Skull Hurler into the Death Guard Chaos Land Raider. Beginning with the Skull Hurler into the Poxwalkers, D6 shots, getting 3 shots. Hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 2s, getting 2 wounds. And they are minus 4 AP, so no armor save remotely possible on the Poxwalkers. And they are D3 damage apiece, but they have to be done separately. So strike number 1, D3 damage, will do 1 damage. 1 5-up disgustingly resilient roll, which fails, so 1 Poxwalker will go down. And strike number 2 will do D3 damage, and it will do 2 damage. So 2 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, passing 1 and failing 1. So 2 Poxwalkers in total will go down, leaving 6 left alive in the squad. Now for D6 shots from the Skull Hurler, getting 5 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 3 5-up armor saves. Passing 1 and failing 2, but the Death Guard will use 1 command point, going from 4 down to 3, for a command reroll to reroll the 3. So here's the reroll, and it will pass. So passing 2 and failing only 1. And it will do D3 damage, and it will do 3 damage anyways. So does the Chaos Land Raider explode on a 6? And it will not. So the Death Guard Chaos Land Raider will lose its last 3 wounds and be removed. The Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings will not be able to shoot since he's locked in combat. Karn the Betrayer, however, will be able to fire his special plasma pistol, and he will shoot it into the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings. 1 shot, hitting on a 2, re-rolling, and getting a hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on a 3, and it wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 1 5-up invulnerable save, which fails. And it is 2 damage, so 2 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, passing 1 and failing 1. So the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings will fall from 2 wounds down to 1 left. Going into the assault phase, there are no charges to declare. However, going into the fight phase, there are multiple fights to resolve. But since there are no charging units, we will go back and forth between the World Eaters and the Death Guard, beginning with the World Eaters. And so the World Eaters will begin with the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings, placing all of his attacks onto the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings. 8 attacks with his 2 sets of Malefic Talons, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, getting 5 hits and 3 rerolls. And here's the rerolls, getting 8 hits total. Strength 7 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s thanks to his Warlord trait, getting 5 wounds and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to wound, so 5 wounds total. Minus 2 AP, so 5 4-up armor saves. And passing all 5. Which means that thanks to the separating plate, there are 5 chances to reflect wounds back on 4-ups. And that is 4 reflected mortal wounds. So the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings will fall from 7 wounds down to 3. And so now the Death Guard will select the Lord of Contagion to place all of his attacks onto Karn the Betrayer. And the Death Guard will use the stratagem Veterans of the Long War for 1 command point, bring them from 3 down to 2. You can use this stratagem when a Death Guard infantry unit is selected to attack in a shooting or fight phase. You can add 1 to all wound rolls made for the unit until the end of the phase. 4 attacks with the Man Reaper, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s thanks to the Demon Prince, getting 3 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit, so 3 hits total. Strength 7 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, but adding 1 thanks to the stratagem, so actually wounding on 2s and rerolling 1s thanks to being a plague weapon, getting all 3 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 3 4-up invulnerable saves. Passing 2, but failing 1. And the World Eaters have no command points to try to reroll that. And not that it matters, but it does D3 damage, and it will do 1 damage. So Karn the Betrayer will lose his last wound and be removed. And of course, when he was removed, the Plague Surgeon and a bunch of other models fell over. This now means, of course, that the World Eaters no longer have anyone that can be chosen to fight in the fight phase, so we will now just resolve the remaining Death Guard units. However, the Plague Marines and the Plague Surgeon are no longer locked in combat, and they did not charge this turn, so they cannot be chosen to fight. So the only unit left to resolve is the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings. 7 attacks with his 2 sets of Malefic Talons, all going onto the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, getting 6 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit. Strength 7 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 3s, getting 4 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 4 5-up invulnerable saves. Passing 2, but failing 2, and they are 2 damage apiece. So the Warlord Demon Prince Khorne with wings will lose his last 3 wounds and be killed off. And that is Slay the Warlord. And now the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings will consolidate up to 3 inches. Going into the morale phase, this squad of Poxwalkers lost 2 models this turn. However, they are mindless and therefore they do not have to take morale checks. At the end of the player turn, the World Eaters are currently controlling 2 objective markers, therefore they will gain 2 victory points. And so at the end of World Eaters turn 2, the score currently sits at 6 victory points for the World Eaters and 8 victory points for the Death Guard thanks to Slay the Warlord. Going into Death Guard turn 3, a reminder that the Death Guard have 2 command points available, and the World Eaters have 0 command points available. Going into the movement phase, this Plague Burst Crawler will remain still. The Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will move up to 8 inches. The second Plague Burst Crawler will remain still. This squad of 10 Poxwalkers sitting on the subjective marker will remain still. This squad of 6 Poxwalkers will move up to 4 inches. This squad of 7 Plague Marines will move up to 5 inches. The Plague Surgeon will move up to 5 inches. The Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings will move up to 12 inches. And finally, the Lord of Contagion will move up to 4 inches. Going into the Psychic phase, the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings will attempt to manifest Smite onto the Khorne Lord of Skulls. And Smite has a warp charge value of 5, and it passes with a 7. So it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 2 mortal wounds. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fall from 28 starting wounds down to 26. Finally, the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will attempt to manifest Smite onto the Khorne Lord of Skulls. And Smite now has a warp charge value of 6, and it will pass with a 6. dice. So it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 2 mortal wounds. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fall from 26 wounds down to 24. Going into the shooting phase, this Plague Burst Crawler will fire its Heavy Slugger into this squad of 4 Chaos Cultists, and it will fire its 2 Entropy Cannons and its Plague Burst Mortar into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. Beginning with the Heavy Slugger, 4 shots hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 3 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit, so 3 hits total. Strength 5 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 3s, getting 1 wound. And it is -1 AP, so no armor save on the cultist. So 1 cultist will go down, leaving 3 left alive in the squad. 2 Entropy Cannons with 1 shot apiece into the Khorne Lord of Skulls for 2 shots total, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, failing to wound. D6 shots from the Plague Burst Mortar, getting 2 shots. Hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, failing to hit. The second Plague Burst Crawler will fire its Heavy Slugger into this squad of cultists, and it will fire its 2 Entropy Cannons and its Plague Burst Mortar into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. So beginning with the Heavy Slugger into the cultists, 4 shots, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits and a reroll. And here's the reroll, getting 3 hits total. Strength 5 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds, and they are -1 AP, so no armor save on the cultists. So 2 cultists will go down, leaving only the cultist champion alive in the squad. Now for the 2 Entropy Cannons, firing 1 shot apiece into the Khorne Lord of Skulls for 2 shots total, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting a hit and a reroll. And here's the reroll, getting 2 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, and they both fail to wound again. Now for D6 shots from the Plague Burst Mortar, getting 3 shots. Hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4 but rerolling fails thanks to being a Plague Weapon and the Warlord trait Arch Contaminator, getting a reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to wound. Finally, the squad of 7 Plague Marines will fire its 3 Plasma Guns and its 2 Bolt Guns in rapid fire range into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. And the Death Guard will use the stratagem Veterans of the Long War for 1 command point, bring them from 2 down to 1. You can use this stratagem when a Death Guard infantry unit is selected to attack in a shooting or fight phase. You can add 1 to all wound rolls made for the unit until the end of the phase. So beginning with the 2 Bolt Guns, 4 shots total, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 3 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 6s, but adding 1 to wound rolls thanks to the stratagem, so actually wounding on 5s, and getting 1 wound. And this of course means that 2 Bolt Guns have gotten more wounds on a Khorne Lord of Skulls than 4 Entropy Cannons. No AP, so 1 3-up armor save, which passes. So now for the 3 Plasma Guns in rapid fire range, and they will fire supercharged shots. So we will begin with the Plague Champion, 2 shots total, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Regular Plasma Gun number 1, 2 shots, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting a fail and a reroll. And here's the reroll, and still rolling a 1. So 1 Plasma Gun will go down, leaving 6 models left alive in the squad. Now regular Plasma Gun number 2, 2 shots, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. So 4 hits total. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, but adding 1 to wound rolls. So actually wounding on 3s, and not that it mattered, getting 2 wounds and 2 fails. But the Death Guard are going to use their last command point, going from 1 down to 0, for a command reroll to reroll the 2. And here's the reroll. And the Veterans of the Long War stratagem still didn't help, but getting a 3rd wound. -3 AP, so 3 5-up invulnerable saves. Passing 2, of course, failing 1. But it is 2 damage, thanks to being supercharged, so the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fall from 24 wounds down to 22. Going into the assault phase, there are no charges to declare, which means going into the fight phase, there are no fights to resolve. And going into the morale phase, this cultist squad lost 3 models this turn, and the cultist champion has a leadership of 6. So they could fail on a 4-up. And here's the morale check roll, and they roll a 5, so they will fail. So the cultist champion will be killed off and removed. And that squad of cultists is wiped out. And the Plague Marine squad lost 1 Plague Marine this turn, but the Plague Champion has a leadership of 8, so it is impossible for them to fail.
At the end of the player turn, the Death Guard are currently controlling 4 objective markers, and therefore they will gain 4 victory points. And so at the end of Death Guard turn 3, the score currently sits at 12 victory points for the Death Guard and 6 victory points for the World Eaters. Going into World Eaters turn 3, a reminder that the World Eaters have 0 command points available, and the Death Guard also have 0 command points available.
At the beginning of the turn, the Khorne Lord of Skulls will regenerate 1 wound, and so it will go back up from 22 wounds to 23. Going into the movement phase, this squad of 10 Chaos Cultists will remain still. This squad of 10 Chaos Cultists will also remain still. The Khorne Lord of Skulls will move up to 10 inches. Going into the shooting phase, the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fire the Skull Hurler into the Plague Burst Crawler on its right, so the one over here, and it will fire its Ichor Cannon into this squad of 6 Poxwalkers. Beginning with the Ichor Cannon, D6 shots, getting 3 shots. Hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit. Strength 7 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on a 2, and it fails to wound. D6 shots from the Skull Hurler into the Plague Burst Crawler, getting 1 shot, hitting on a 3, and it fails to hit. Going into the assault phase, the Khorne Lord of Skulls will declare a multi-charge into both Plague Burst Crawlers, with the primary target being this Plague Burst Crawler to the Khorne Lord of Skulls' right. And so we have Overwatch from the 2 Plague Burst Crawlers, beginning with the primary target, and starting with the Heavy Slugger. 4 shots, hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit. 2 Entropy Cannons, hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on a 4, and it fails to wound. D6 shots from the Plague Burst Mortar, getting 6 shots. Hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 hit and a reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit, so just 1 hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, rerolling, getting 1 wound. Minus 2 AP, so 1 5-up invulnerable save, which fails. And it will do D3 damage, and it will do 2 damage. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fall from 23 wounds down to 21. Now for the non-primary target Plague Burst Crawler, 4 shots with the Heavy Slugger, hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, failing to hit. 2 shots from the Entropy Cannon, hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 rerolls. And here's the rerolls, still failing to hit. D6 shots from the Plague Burst Mortar, getting 6 shots, hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on a 4, rerolling, getting 1 wound. Minus 2 AP, so 1 5-up invulnerable save, which passes. And the Khorne Lord of Skulls is within 3 inches of both Plague Burst Crawlers, which means he needs a 2-inch charge to make it in, going through a crater. So looking for at least a 4-up on 2 dice, and rolling a 6. So even after subtracting 2 inches for charging through a crater, a 4-inch charge is more than enough to make it into combat with both. And the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will not heroically intervene. So going into the fight phase, the Khorne Lord of Skulls will place all of its attacks onto this Plague Burst Crawler. Since the Khorne Lord of Skulls is still at 21 wounds, he will have 4 attack space, and he will use all 4 attacks with the smash profile from the Great Cleaver of Khorne onto the Plague Burst Crawler, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 20 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 2s, getting 1 wound. Minus 4 AP, so 1 5-up invulnerable save, which fails. And it will do 6 damage, so 6 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, passing 2 and failing 4. So this Plague Burst Crawler will fall from 12 starting wounds down to 8. And now the 2 Plague Burst Crawlers will be able to attack back. And I do realize that normally they would be done separately. However, because one of the Plague Burst Crawlers has all of its wounds and the other is still at 8 wounds, they will all have the same profile for their attacks. So we will do them all together. So 3 attacks apiece from the 2 Plague Burst Crawlers for 6 attacks total, hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 hit. Strength 7 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on a 5, and it wounds. No AP, so 1 3-up armor save, which passes. And going into the morale phase, there are no morale checks to take.
At the end of the player turn, the World Eaters are currently controlling 2 objective markers, and so they will gain 2 victory points. And so at the end of World Eaters turn 3, the score currently sits at 8 victory points for the World Eaters and 12 victory points for the Death Guard. Going into Death Guard turn 4, a reminder that the Death Guard have 0 command points available, and the World Eaters also have 0 command points available.
Going into the movement phase, this squad of 10 Poxwalkers will remain still. This squad of 6 Poxwalkers will remain still. This Plague Burst Crawler, which is down to 8 wounds, will remain locked in combat with the Khorne Lord of Skulls. The Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will move up to 8 inches. The fully healthy Plague Burst Crawler will fall back out of combat. The Lord of Contagion will remain still. The squad of 6 Plague Marines will move up to 5 inches. The Plague Surgeon will move up to 5 inches and will also declare an advance. And here's the advance roll, rolling 3 additional inches. So the Plague Surgeon will move up to 8 inches. The Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings will move up to 12 inches and will also declare an advance. And here's the advance roll, rolling 2 additional inches. So the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings will move up to 14 inches. Going into the Psychic phase, the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings will attempt to manifest Smite onto this squad of 10 Chaos Cultists because they are the closest visible enemy unit within 18 inches. And Smite has a warp charge value of 5, and it will pass with an 8. So it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 2 mortal wounds. So 2 Chaos Cultists will go down, leaving 8 left alive in the squad. Finally, the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will attempt to manifest Miasma of Pestilence onto himself. And Miasma of Pestilence has a warp charge value of 6, and it will pass with the 10. Going into the shooting phase, the only unit that will be able to fire will be this squad of 6 Plague Marines, which will fire its 2 bolt guns and 2 plasma guns in rapid fire range into this squad of 8 Chaos Cultists. And we will begin with the 2 plasma guns in rapid fire range firing standard shots, so 4 shots total, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting all 4 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 2s. Getting 3 wounds, and at minus 3 AP, the cultists will have no armor save even though they are in a crater. So 3 cultists will go down, leaving 5 left alive in the squad. Now the 4 bolt guns in rapid fire range, 4 shots total, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits and a reroll. And here's the reroll, getting a 3rd hit. Strength 4 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 3s, getting all 3 wounds. No AP but +1 thanks to the crater, so 3 5-up armor saves, passing 2 and failing 1. So 1 more cultist will go down, leaving 4 left alive in the squad. Going into the assault phase, there is 1 charge to declare, and it will be from the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle, declaring a charge into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. Because the Khorne Lord of Skulls is locked in combat with something other than an infantry unit, he will not be able to fire Overwatch. And so here's the charge range, getting 4 inches. And so even after subtracting 2 from charging through a crater, a 2-inch charge is still more than enough to make it in. Going into the fight phase, we will begin with the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle placing all his attacks onto the Khorne Lord of Skulls. 7 attacks with his 2 sets of Malefic Talons, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, getting 5 hits and 2 rerolls. And here's the rerolls, getting all 7 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound. Minus 2 AP, so 1 5-up invulnerable save, which passes. Now that all the charging units have gone, the Plague Burst Crawler will attack next. 3 attacks hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, getting a hit, a miss, and a reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit, so 1 hit total. Strength 7 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on a 5, and it wounds. No AP, so 1 3-up armor save, which fails. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fall from 21 wounds down to 20. And so now the Khorne Lord of Skulls will get to strike back, and he will place all of his attacks onto the Plague Burst Crawler. 4 attacks using the Smash profile from the Great Cleaver of Khorne, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits. Strength 20 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 2s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 4 AP, so 2 5-up invulnerable saves, failing both. 6 damage apiece for 12 damage total means 12 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, passing 3 and failing 9. And so will the Plague Burst Crawler explode on a 5-up? And it will not. So the Plague Burst Crawler will lose its 8 remaining wounds, and then it will be removed. This will mean, of course, that the Death Guard are no longer controlling this objective marker, and it is now being contested instead. Going into the morale phase, this squad of cultists lost 6 models this turn, and the champion has a leadership of 6, which means they will automatically fail, and the dice roll will determine exactly how many models are lost. And here's the morale check roll, and they roll a 3, so 3 more cultists will be removed, leaving only the cultist champion alive in the squad.
At the end of the player turn, the Death Guard are currently controlling 3 objective markers, which means they will gain 3 victory points. And so at the end of Death Guard turn 4, the score currently sits at 15 victory points for the Death Guard and 8 victory points for the World Eaters. Going into World Eaters turn 4, a reminder that the World Eaters have 0 command points available, and the Death Guard also have 0 command points available.
At the beginning of the turn, the Khorne Lord of Skulls will regenerate 1 wound, so it will go back up from 20 wounds to 21. Going into the movement phase, the Khorne Lord of Skulls will remain locked in combat with the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle. This squad of 10 Chaos Cultists sitting on this objective marker will remain still. Finally, this lone Cultist champion will move up to 6 inches. Going into the shooting phase, the Khorne Lord of Skulls is locked in combat with a unit that does not have the infantry keyword, so it will not be able to fire. However, the Cultist champion is within 12 inches and is able to see the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings, and it is the closest enemy unit, so the Cultist champion will fire an auto pistol into the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings. One shot hitting on a 4, and it fails to hit. Going into the assault phase, there are no charges to declare. However, going into the fight phase, we do need to resolve the fight between the Khorne Lord of Skulls and the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle. And the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fight first. 4 attacks with the smash profile from the Great Cleaver of Khorne, hitting on 4s thanks to Miasma of Pestilence. Getting 2 hits. Strength 20 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 2s. Getting 2 wounds. Minus 4 AP, so 2 5-up invulnerable saves, passing 1 and failing 1. And it is 6 damage, so 6 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, passing 2, failing 3, and 1 cocked dice. And here's the reroll on the cocked dice, failing a 4th, so 4 will go through. So the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will fall from 8 starting wounds down to 4. And now the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will strike back. 7 attacks with his 2 sets of Malefic Talons, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, getting all 7 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 5s. Getting 3 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 3 5-up invulnerable saves. Failing all 3, and they are 2 damage apiece. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fall from 21 wounds down to 15. And going into the morale phase, there are no morale checks to take.
At the end of the player turn, the World Eaters are currently controlling 2 objective markers, and so they will gain 2 victory points. And so at the end of World Eaters turn 4, the score currently sits at 10 victory points for the World Eaters and 15 victory points for the Death Guard. Going into Death Guard turn 5, a reminder that the Death Guard have 0 command points available, and the World Eaters also have 0 command points available.
Going into the movement phase, this squad of 10 Poxwalkers will remain still. This squad of 6 Poxwalkers will also remain still. The Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will remain locked in combat with the Khorne Lord of Skulls. This Plague Burst Crawler will move up to 9 inches. The Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings will move up to 12 inches. The squad of 6 Plague Marines will move up to 5 inches. The Plague Surgeon will move up to 5 inches. Finally, the Lord of Contagion will remain still. Going into the Psychic phase, we will begin with the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings attempting to manifest Smite onto the Khorne Lord of Skulls. And Smite has a warp card value of 5, and it passes with a 9. So it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 1 mortal wound. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fall from 15 wounds down to 14. And now the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will attempt to manifest Smite onto the Khorne Lord of Skulls. And Smite now has a warp card value of 6, and it will pass with a 7. And it will do D3 mortal wounds, and it will do 3 mortal wounds. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fall from 14 wounds down to 11. Going into the shooting phase, because the cultist moved in the previous World Eater's turn, only this bolt gun is able to see the cultist champion. So the squad of 6 Plague Marines will fire a single bolt gun in rapid fire range into the cultist champion. 2 shots hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit. Strength 4 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on a 3, and it wounds. No AP, but +1 thanks to the crater, so 1 5-up armor save, which fails. So the cultist champion will be killed off and removed. And that squad is wiped out. Thanks to moving, this Plague Burst Crawler is now within 36 inches of this squad of 10 Chaos Cultists, so it will fire its Heavy Slugger, 2 Entropy Cannons, and Plague Burst Mortar into the squad of Cultists. Beginning with the Heavy Slugger, 4 shots hitting on 5s, getting 3 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 1 AP, but +1 thanks to the Ruin, so 2 6-up armor saves, passing 1 and failing 1. So 1 Cultist will go go down, leaving 9 left alive in the squad. 2 shots from the entropy cannons, hitting on 5s, failing to hit. And then D6 shots from the plague burst mortar, getting 2 shots, hitting on 5s, getting 1 hit. Strength 8 versus toughness 3 means wounding on 2s, rerolling 1s thanks to being a plague weapon, getting 1 wound, and it is minus 2 AP, so no armor save for the cultists even though they are in a ruin. So 1 more cultist will go down, leaving 8 left alive in the squad. Going into the assault phase, there is 1 charge to declare, which will be from the Demon Prince and Nurgle with wings into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. No overwatch, so here's the charge range, rolling 4 inches. And luckily, he's not charging through a crater, so a 4-inch charge will be more than enough to make it in. So going into the fight phase, we will begin with the Demon Prince and Nurgle with wings, placing its attacks onto the Khorne Lord of Skulls. 7 attacks with his 2 sets of malefic talons, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, getting 5 hits and 2 rerolls. And here's the 2 rerolls, getting all 7 hits. Strength 7 versus toughness 8 means wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound. Minus 2 AP, so 1 5-up invulnerable save, which fails. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fall from 11 wounds down to 9. And now for units that did not charge, beginning with the Warlord Demon Prince and Nurgle. 7 attacks with his 2 sets of malefic talons, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, getting 6 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, getting all 7 hits. Strength 7 versus toughness 8 means wounding on 5s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 2 5-up invulnerable saves, passing 1 and failing 1. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fall from 9 wounds down to 7. And so now the Khorne Lord of Skulls will strike back. And so now that the Khorne Lord of Skulls is down to 7 wounds, he now has 6 attacks base instead of 4. However, he will be at strength 8 base instead of strength 10. So what the Khorne Lord of Skulls will do is it will split its attacks into 2 groups of 3, placing 3 attacks onto each Demon Prince. And he will use the Smash profile from the Great Cleaver of Khorne for all of the attacks. So we will begin with the 3 attacks onto the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings. Hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 16 versus toughness 6 means wounding on 2s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 4 AP, so 2 5-up invulnerable saves, and failing both. And they are 6 damage apiece, so 12 damage total, 12 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, passing 2 but failing 10. So the Demon Prince and Nurgle with wings will lose its last wound and be removed. And so now for the 3 attacks onto the Warlord Demon Prince and Nurgle, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 16 versus toughness 6 means wounding on 2s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 4 AP, so 2 5-up invulnerable saves, and failing both. Once again, 6 damage apiece for 12 damage total, 12 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, passing 4, but failing 8. So the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will lose its last 4 wounds and be removed. And that is Slay the Warlord. And the Khorne Lord of Skulls will now consolidate up to 3 inches. Going into the morale phase, this squad of Chaos Cultists lost 2 models this turn, and the Cultist Champion has a leadership of 6. And so here's the morale check roll, and they roll a 3, so they pass and nothing happens.
At the end of the player turn, the Death Guard are currently holding 3 objective markers, which means they will gain 3 victory points. And so at the end of Death Guard turn 5, the score currently sits at 18 victory points for the Death Guard and 11 victory points for the World Eaters, thanks to Slay the Warlord. Going into World Eaters turn 5, a reminder that the World Eaters have 0 command points available, and the Death Guard also have 0 command points available.
At the beginning of the turn, the Khorne Lord of Skulls will regenerate 1 wound, so it will go back up from 7 wounds to 8. And at this point, the World Eaters are going to concede the game. This will mean that both sides will achieve Line Breaker, so each side will gain an additional victory point for that. And so the score will now be 19 victory points for the Death Guard and 12 victory points for the World Eaters. But then we need to add in kill points, and the World Eaters were able to successfully kill off 4 full Death Guard units, so they will gain 4 victory points. So that they'll be brought up to a final score of 16 victory points. And the Death Guard were able to fully kill off 6 World Eaters units, so they will gain an additional 6 victory points. So the Death Guard score will go up to 25 victory points.
And so we will have a true final score of 25 victory points for the Death Guard, 16 victory points for the World Eaters, and a major victory for the Death Guard thanks to a World Eaters concession at the beginning of World Eaters Turn 5. And so now that the game is over, I can quickly go over one or two of my final thoughts on this particular game, beginning of course with the main reason for concession, which is that the World Eaters are too far behind at this point to catch up, considering what the Death Guard have on the table. And the second, but maybe more important reason, is that this Khorne Lord of Skulls will not be able to fit through either this gap or this gap up here, which means that it will be unable to charge this Plague Burst Crawler or this squad of Poxwalkers. Khorne Lord of Skulls would be unable to fit through this gap right here in the ruins, or this one down here, so he would be unable to charge the squad of 10 Poxwalkers over here, and it would be unable to fit through this gap in the ruin right here, or this one, which means that it pretty much is impossible for the Khorne Lord of Skulls to charge anything of the Death Guards up here, which means that regardless of how many turns the game continues, the Khorne Lord of Skulls is only going to be able to shoot for the rest of the game. And of course, as we've seen throughout this game, the shooting from the Khorne Lord of Skulls can be somewhat inconsistent, especially considering that they no longer have any command points to use for command rerolls or for the stratagem Demon Forge. And also, since they have to rely on a random number of shots, they could get 6, they could get 1. And as we've seen from these Poxwalkers here, the high damage and the good AP doesn't necessarily mean much if they're just going to pass a 5-up Disgustingly Resilient roll anyways. And so the problem is, the usefulness from this Khorne Lord of Skulls has been reduced dramatically. And because the World Eaters would literally have to rely on only the shooting from this Khorne Lord of Skulls to do anything for the rest of the game, the Death Guard are pretty much guaranteed to at least get this objective marker, this one, or this one every single turn, so they will continue to gain at least 1, if not 2 or 3 victory points from those objective markers. And this squad of Plague Marines, which the Khorne Lord of Skulls would only be able to wound on 3s and not 2s, would be able to move up if the game continued and potentially hold this objective marker. And so you're talking about the Death Guard being able to gain probably at least 2, if not 4 victory points every single turn, while the World Eaters will only be able to gain a max of 2 thanks to only having 2 units on the board still. And of course, with how resilient the Death Guard are, I do not believe that the World Eaters would be able to kill off more than 1 or 2 units, even if the game continued all the way through to the end of turn 7, which means that at most they would be able to match the Death Guard in terms of kill points, and of course the Death Guard will continue to gain, if not exceed, the same number of victory points from objective markers every turn. So there's no way for the World Eaters to catch up, which means they would need to table the Death Guard, which, as we've seen from previous battle reports, is extremely difficult to even attempt. And because the game could possibly end at the end of this turn anyways, there isn't really much of a point in playing it out. The final thing that I want to mention in this game, which is not a reason for concession, and in fact is the opposite, was the reason for why the World Eaters were still in this game for as long as they were, is the fact that both Plague Burst Crawlers failed epically this game. How many times did the entropy cannons from both Plague Burst Crawlers fail to do anything against anything? How many times did the Plague Burst Mortars roll a small number of shots and then fail to do anything? I have to say that in this game, the Plague Burst Crawlers were incredibly disappointing and a complete waste of points. I wonder how much better the Death Guard would have done this game if the 2 Plague Burst Crawlers had been replaced with Predators armed with las cannons. But that's really all I have to say about this game. I really hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.